Good morning. Good morning. Hello, hello. We are back again with the Nursing School Mindset Edit. Please give a thumbs up to let me know you can hear me. The one time I skipped that, you guys could not hear me. So please somebody pop in and do that and we will get rolling. Okay, I'm just getting my notes pulled up over here and having one more sip of coffee. All right, I think you guys can hear me. Everything looks good on my end. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you can't hear me, put something into the comments, okay? All righty, so today we're talking about being an older student in nursing school, that non-traditional student. And I hear a lot from students who are in their 40s or even their 50s that they're maybe worried about starting nursing school as an older student and really afraid they're going to be at a disadvantage. So I did a survey with over 500 older students. I think it was a couple summers ago. And the results I got back from that were just really, really eye-opening. So what we saw was that most older students felt that their age and life experience gave them advantages, and we'll talk about what those are. And about 20-ish% felt it was pretty neutral. And then only about 15% felt that it was overall a disadvantage. So by and large, either advantageous or didn't really make any difference whatsoever, very neutral. So let's talk about the disadvantages first so that we can kind of get those out of the way. And if you have any comments or questions as I'm going through these, feel free to pop them into the comments. I would love to talk through with you if we have an opportunity on this. Okay, so the biggest disadvantage, one of them listed, was having to juggle family and home responsibilities with school responsibilities. And yes, this is a big deal when you've got kids, you've got childcare. That was one of the biggest issues, just juggling childcare with last minute schedule changes, which yes, do happen in nursing school. And just everything that a parent has to do at home on top of everything that you have to do for school. So I did an episode a while ago called, something like parenting tips for nursing students. I don't know. What was it called? I don't remember. Something about going through nursing school as a parent. Basically, it's tips for parents that are in nursing school. And I will put a link to that below this video when we're all finished here. Actually, let me just grab it and I can pop it into the comments right now. I actually, for this episode, interviewed a student who had 4 kids at the time and was able to get through school. And it was because of the systems that she had set up in place and kind of her mindset around what she prioritized and what she let slide while she was a student. So a lot of students have written back to say that that was super helpful for them. So I would listen to that episode if you're a parent and you're worried about juggling all of that as part of your responsibilities. And then the other thing I would say is, as someone who has to juggle a lot more than a student who maybe doesn't have children, have a family, all of that to deal with, is you've got to be even more organized than you ever thought you ever needed to be in your whole life. Being organized with your schedule, setting set time for studying and doing schoolwork, and making intentional time for family time. Those are really, really key. A girl I went to school with had, I think, 5 children, and I was just amazed that she got through nursing school. She was an absolute rock star. And what she was able to set up was that no matter what we had going on at school that day, even if we were only in class for a few hours in the morning, she had blocked out her schedule until 5 or 6 p.m. every day. She just stayed at the university, went to the library, went somewhere and studied and did homework. And then that was her dedicated study time. And then when she went home, she was all in with being a parent. So that was one way that it can work. I want you to listen to the episode with Chelsea, the student I interviewed, and maybe you'll get some ideas from that as well. So that was one disadvantage, having to do all that juggling. Another one was learning how to learn after being out of school for a while. So I myself went back to school for nursing. I was also an older student, and I hadn't taken a class in 15 years, I think, by the time I took chemistry, and I had to relearn how to learn. And what I would say to this is take a learning styles quiz and find out what your learning style is. Just because you were a visual learner back when you were 20 does not necessarily mean you still are. Maybe now you learn better by listening or by reading or by using your hands, kinesthetic learner. So take a learning style quiz. That can really jumpstart you knowing how you learn best, okay? And then another disadvantage that was cited by students was just using all the different tech required for nursing school. Some people just, maybe you've been working at home, you've been a stay-at-home parent, and you just haven't had to use PowerPoint and Microsoft Word and online learning systems and all of this stuff. You need to learn how to do those types of things, right? So utilizing different tech could be a disadvantage. What I would say to this is, if your school gives you access to something like Office 365, which my school did, then get in there ahead of time, take the little basic tutorials and learn how to navigate around in Microsoft Word, learn how to make a basic PowerPoint presentation, like kind of get a feel for those things ahead of time. And then when your school gives you access to your learning management system, whether it's Canvas or Blackboard or whatever, get in there, log in as soon as you can and start learning how to navigate your way around. And that way when day one happens, you're not lost online as well as maybe lost in other areas, right? You'll at least know your way around online in the learning platform. And then another disadvantage cited by students was that nursing school is very fast paced and they weren't sure they could keep up. Well, guess what? It's fast paced for everybody, okay? So I think that's kind of a level playing field there. And then another one was that they felt maybe that they didn't connect with their classmates who were a lot younger. And to this, I would say, while it's great to have connections with your classmates, you're not there for the social aspect. You're there to learn. You're there, treat this like your job, right? You're there to learn and do your job as a nursing student. And I would also say to that, big study groups, not all they're cracked up to be. They can actually waste a ton of time and not be that productive in many cases. So find one or two other students that you connect with that you can ask, it's great to have someone to text to say, hey, do you know where to find those assignment instructions? Or did you catch what she was saying about pulmonary hypertension? I don't really understand that concept. Having one or two other people that you can reach out to with questions like that is really helpful. But other than that, you're there to learn. It's not a social hour, and social hour will actually really waste a lot of time, okay? And I did a talk recently about study groups, and I'm trying to remember what day I did that. But if you go back and look at these videos, you'll see that I talk about study groups all the time and how big study groups are actually kind of a waste of time. I think it was in the one I did a few days ago about ways that nursing students struggle unnecessarily, and one of those is trying to use a big study group. Okay, now while those could seem like big issues, remember, most people felt like they had an actual advantage as being an older student. So the first biggest advantage that was cited by older students is basic maturity and professionalism, especially really noticeable in clinical. So if your school, for example, if your school has rules in clinical that you think are kind of ridiculous, I guarantee you that they made those rules because somebody was acting in an unprofessional manner. Okay, so like a lot of schools have a rule that you can't wear a smartwatch, a digital watch in clinical. And while a digital watch is super helpful in clinical, the reason the schools don't allow it, a key reason they don't allow it, is because students could not stay off their text messages. That's unprofessional behavior, right? So as an older student, you would know not to be checking your text messages while you're at clinical, right? Of course you would. So while you may assume everyone who enters nursing school is going to take it seriously, going to act professionally, this is not always the case. And you just, as an older student, you've most likely worked in other professional settings or been in other professional settings and know how to comport yourself in that environment. So that can really just help you in the long run. So maturity and professionalism. And then another one is skills from a prior career. And it doesn't have to even be a healthcare related field. Any kind of job or career where you had to prioritize or problem solve or research or analyze or juggle a different tasks or deal with difficult people or assess things. Those are all skills that you're going to use in nursing school and at the bedside. So your skills from a prior career really come in handy. And then communication skills kind of goes along with that. Older students just tend to have better, more refined, more practiced communication skills. And this is an absolutely vital skill. Your communication must be clear, it must be concise. Let's say you're calling a doctor about a change in patient condition. You can't mumble and fumble your way through that. You have to be clear, concise, to the point, and advocate for your patient with that. And you also have to be able to communicate in a very compassionate but authoritative way that might be difficult if you are, just coming into your adult life and you haven't had experience doing that yet. So communication skills, another area where older students shine, okay? And then wait, hold on, we have a comment from Blue Isis. Oh, yep, older student, you 100% agree. Yes, thank you, Blue Isis, for that. Another one that was listed as an advantage by a lot of students was that they had a partner at home to lean on. A lot of older students may be in a committed relationship and they have a significant other that they can lean on, so they didn't feel so isolated or alone in their challenges that they're experiencing at nursing school. So that is great. And then life experience. That is another key way where an older student has a lot of advantages. This was actually mentioned a lot by the older students that I got feedback from. And when you have a lot of life experience, you can handle yourself a little better in difficult situations, and you can take care of yourself better when you are under a lot of pressure. You've been there, you've done it before, and you're doing it again here. And then another key one, and this kind of goes along with communication skills, is not being afraid to speak up. So I don't know about you, but when I went to college the first time, way back when I was a youngster, I was always intimidated to raise my hand and ask a question. If I didn't understand something, I would just figure it out later on my own. Like I didn't even have the courage to speak up for myself as a student. As an older student, you're not afraid of that. You're not intimidated by your instructors. You're not as intimidated by the nurses in clinical, especially if they are exhibiting unprofessional behavior. You hear about nurses in clinical being mean to nursing students. And that did happen to me as a student. And if I had been my 21-year-old self, I would have not been able to handle it as well as I did. But as an older student, I knew that was not about me, that was about them, and I let it go. But you have to be able to speak up for yourself, speak up for your patients. That's essentially a very, very key component of your job. So not being intimidated by doing that is a key skill that an older student has. And then another one was being more motivated. So a lot of times an older student has a whole family that's counting on them. They have a spouse, they may have kids, they have all these people that are counting on them to get through nursing school and basically, have a steady career that can help the family. So that is really motivating and a key factor for why an older student might have an advantage. So that's great. And then another one is that an older student most likely requires less hand-holding and takes more ownership of their education. So this is especially true if you've been to college before, if you've been in any kind of a job or career where you had any level of autonomy, where you had to be self-motivated and drive yourself forward. Nursing school instructors just are not going to spoon feed anybody, and they're going to tell you what you need to know. They're going to make the information available, and then they expect for you to show up and do the work, basically. So that is another area where an older student can really shine. And then the last really key one is problem solving ability and resourcefulness. So I say this all the time, that your job as a nurse is to see problems and fix them. So if you are really good at problem solving, have a lot of experience with that, fantastic. And then resourcefulness. I did a talk a few days ago, I believe it was on the 15th of July, where basically I talked about resourcefulness is your number one trait that will make you a successful student and a successful nurse. So I want you to go back and watch that one if you did not come to that one or watch that replay yet. So if you're heading into nursing school as that non-traditional student, I don't want you to think that you're just starting out at a disadvantage. You 100% are not. You're actually starting out way ahead. Okay, so that is very good news for you. So again, maybe doing some of that prep work ahead of time, enhancing computer literacy if that's something that you need to work on. And I'll go through a list of things that you might want to practice doing here in just a moment. Get into that learning management system, work your way around, get your support systems in place, really, really key. Have backup plans for your backup plans. What I mean by that is if you've got a childcare situation, I would have your main plan and then a backup plan and then maybe a tertiary backup plan just in case, because sometimes things like a clinical day will pop up out of nowhere, or a skills lab, something that you have to be at will get changed and you've already arranged childcare for a different day. Now you've got to move it. You just have to be able to have plan A, B, and C, which is really important. And then reassess your preferred learning style, take some kind of learning style assessment quiz, and get your schedule and your life and all of those things super organized in advance so that you can basically run things kind of on autopilot as much as possible during the semester. And go and listen to that episode that I did with Chelsea, the mom of 4 who got through nursing school just fine because she prioritized the right things and let the things that weren't so important just kind of fall away while she went through that. And she did absolutely great in nursing school. Okay, so if you want to stick around for a minute, I'm going to tell you, if you are the person who hasn't really done a lot of computer stuff aside from Google searches and hanging out on social media, then there are some things that you want to learn how to do or refresh your skills on before you head into nursing school. And these are things like taking a screenshot. You'll be doing that a lot. Know where those screenshots go on your computer. It took me a while to figure that out, that they go to a special folder on your computer. So you have to be able to take them and know where to find them. You need to be able to record audio files, upload them, maybe add them to a PowerPoint presentation, for example, upload documents, download documents, and again, know where they go on your computer. I have students sometimes who are trying to find a document that I sent them and they say, I downloaded it, but I don't have it. And, I have to talk them through, okay, you have to be able to go and know where to look for those downloads on your computer. Get your digital files super organized in advance. There's just going to be a ton of digital paperwork, and having a system for keeping that super organized is going to be absolutely key. And something simple like left click versus right click. Make sure you understand those things. Know how to create documents, know how to create a Word document, set it up in APA format. That's going to be really important. You don't want to be wasting time when you've got a paper due in an hour that you've written and it's beautifully written, but it's not, maybe your margins aren't exactly 1 inch, or whatever it is for your APA formatting. So you don't want to have to mess with that right before you turn in a paper, right? So get that figured out in advance. Know how to make a PowerPoint presentation, how to use Google Docs for collaborative work. That's really great. You can take notes and share them with classmates, and you can all add to them and collaborate on them together. It's a really, really great way to do that. How to use video conferencing like Zoom, getting, know where to, how to set up your camera, how to choose which camera and your microphone for your Zoom and all of that stuff. And downloading and installing software. If you're taking any kind of online exams in nursing school, you're probably going to have to download some kind of proctoring or lockdown browser software. You need to be able to know how to do that, and you don't want to do that 10 minutes before the exam starts. You need to do those types of things in advance, and also know how to conduct research online so that you can find credible sources to cite for your papers. And I actually teach you how to do that in my boot camp, which is on sale right now. I'll put the link below this video. And that is it. That is my little pep talk about being an older student. You absolutely have a ton of advantages. You're going to do absolutely great. Okay, so tomorrow, let's see what we're talking about tomorrow. We're going to be talking about pharmacology and why it does not have to be your scariest class. Okay, so I'll see you back here tomorrow for that. Have a great day. Oh, we have a question. Hang on. Okay, hold on. Blue Isis is asking about, she's in a BSN. She's considering taking the PN prior to for the RN. You know what, Blue Isis, I don't really, the only you're thinking of doing it so that you can work while you're in school. I don't think there's really any disadvantage as long as you're, I don't really know the process of that. Like, does your school have to give you a green light to prove that you've taken the core classes required for the LPN? If they do that, and that's a thing that happens, then there's really no major disadvantage if you are wanting to work as an LPN while you're finishing your program. The only downside I might say would be prepping for that exam might pull you away from keeping up with the content that you're learning in your program. So that's the only sticky part there. But if you're doing it over the summer, then I don't really see any huge disadvantage to that, especially if you need to be, working and you want to work as an LPN while you're finishing your BSN. And you are very welcome, Renee. Very, very welcome. So I hope to see you back here tomorrow. Okay, bye guys.